Hi, I'm Grant Gustin, and while some of you may know me as The Flash, you may not know that I was born and raised in Virginia. I care about my community. Elections are about caring about your community. Now, obviously you already know that elections matter, and you know how important this one is, or you wouldn't be here watching. But here's something you may not know. The 2016 presidential race was decided by about 80,000 votes in 3 key states. But there were nearly 100 million registered voters who did not vote. A tiny fraction of those who didn't vote, 1%, could have created a different result. That's why it's so important that you encourage everyone you know to vote. Friends, family, coworkers, everyone. Because what good is a democracy if we don't actually participate in it with our votes? As the late great Congressman John Lewis said, it is the most powerful non-violent tool we have to create a more perfect union. There's nothing more American, although baseball, jazz, and Oreos are up there. But don't take my word for it. We've got a whole program of Virginians and Virginia advocates to share the sweet tea. You'll hear stories from a single mom, a former inmate, community activists, and real-life Washington. That's right. Kerry, Washington. But mostly, tonight is all about getting out the vote. We can all be superheroes, no capes required. All you have to do is vote. Our first speaker is the award-winning co-executive director of New Virginia's Majority, where she leads multiracial, multi-issue campaigns to mobilize Virginia's immigrants, people of color, women, low-income working people, and youth. Please welcome TRAM Win.
So I'm pretty sure that I have reached peak cool auntie status with that intro. I'm so excited that y'all are with us tonight, not only because we have an amazing lineup, but because we get to talk about one of my favorite topics, voting. I will never forget the day that I became a US citizen and what it felt like to take that oath of citizenship and to be able to finally vote for the first time. Because to me, voting is at the heart of what it means to be an American. 40 years ago, my mom and dad left everyone and everything behind in Vietnam. They got on a boat and faced danger after danger after danger. And they kept going because they had one dream. And that dream was America and the promise of freedom, equality, and justice that she holds. 40 years ago, my parents had no idea if they would make it to this country safely, let alone imagine that the daughter they gave birth to in a refugee camp would one day grow up to be one of the fiercest defenders of their dream of America. But because of my experiences with racial discrimination, growing up as an immigrant in the South, it was only natural that I would help start New Virginia Majority, to build a new Virginia where all people are valued no matter who we are, where we come from, where we live, who we love, that puts people over profit. And over the past decade, we have expanded the electorate to be more reflective of Virginia's rich diversity. We've registered over 300,000 new voters, knocked on over 3 million doors to get out the vote. And together with our partners, many of whom are co-hosting this event with us tonight, we have brought in sweeping change. From expanding Medicaid for nearly 400,000 Virginians, restoring voting rights to nearly 200,000 formerly incarcerated, and showing the world that Virginia can be a welcoming place for immigrants like me. But we have a long way to go. We are facing some of the greatest challenges of our lifetimes, not only a public health crisis, but a crisis of political, economic, and social systems. We have a perfect storm of actions and events that are exposing the harsh inequities of a system built centuries ago to oppress Black people and now all people of color. We can change that system together if we are all involved and we're all using our voice to create a new system that does not shut out, silence, or ignore the very communities that it aims to serve. And I know that we can win when we do this work together, and when we follow the lead of the amazing folks driving change every day in the community, many of whom you are going to hear from tonight, starting with the amazing EVELIN URRUTIA, who has been organizing in the Latinx community for over 20 years.
Hi, my name is EVELIN URRUTIA, Executive Director of Tenants and Workers United. Our Latinx families at this moment are suffering a lot. They are struggling day by day. For a long time, our family have been living in fear. Our family have been torn apart. We live in a country that we don't feel safe, but we called home. This also had affected our children, not knowing if one day, when they come back from school, they will find their parents at home. These elections are really important. They are really important for all of us. This election is a way for us as Latinos to go in massive numbers and vote on November. This is a way to show the politicians that we are ready, that we are here, that we are not invisible, and that we don't want to live in the shadow anymore. My call to everyone is, please vote in these elections. Please organize your community to go and vote on these elections. These elections are important. All elections are important. Our future, our kids' futures depend on us. Thank you.
I represent the people. The ones who love, the ones who are loved, all those with families and friends. See, I represent those with dreams and aspirations. I am one of them. Taken from society, thrown back at a disadvantage. Some of us have been left abandoned. Subject to a system governed by other standards, a system that's underhanded. We heard Maya Angelou say the caged bird sings, and we understand her, but the sad truth is caged birds don't sing, they scream. And no one ever speaks bird to understand us, but still I represent the people. All the mothers with sons and daughters and the fathers with the same. For them, we stand out in front of monuments, shouting out for change, protesting with equality and fairness as our aim, walking with so much on our shoulders may weaken limbs. So all of those still standing strong fighting, I speak for them. I said I represent the people. And no, I don't have all the answers. I can't pretend to. But I connect with those that have been disenfranchised or confined. I understand what they've been through. I understand the pain the pen feels touching the paper and every letter they send you. So I'm here to give my help and lend a hand that the world may not give you. See, I remember feeling all alone, but being surrounded with so many people that have dealt with your same struggle. You should feel happy that you're home. But when you feel like your voice doesn't matter, you no longer feel strong. So I represent the people. On the way to the polls to vote, feeling if their voice doesn't matter. So much has happened. We're filled with so much passion. We can't let this opportunity pass us. We must stand and fight until we have our equal rights. So for y'all, I will be PAINE, and I will fight. I will be PAINE on the front lines until everything is equal. I'm here as PAINE, and I represent the people. Peace.
Hi, my name is BYRUM, and I'm from Virginia Beach. And voting is important to me, especially as I'm becoming a new adult, because it gives me an opportunity to have a say on things that will impact me, the ones that I care about, the ones that I love in my community. I think it's really important for us to vote this year just because, you know, society has always been run by a group of elitists, and we really have an opportunity to see the world change. And you want to have your voice heard when that time comes. After the election is just as important as before. You need to notice that in the past, a lot of politicians have made false promises and, you know, accusations that they can't necessarily uphold. And we need to speak out against even the politicians that we may vote into office when they make mistakes that don't align with what they said previously. And we need to support them when they make decisions that are accurate and align with what they said when they were running for office.
Greetings, family. My name is Christopher Rashad Green, and in August of 2016, I got my right to vote restored here in Virginia. After 30 years of being disenfranchised, after 30 years of not having my voice heard, 15 years of incarceration, homelessness, substance abuse, and now that I have my right to vote, having my right to vote matters so much to me because now my voice is heard. I have political currency now, and I have a say in what goes on in my community and in my country. And registering to vote is so important right now. To be engaged is more important than ever to build power for our communities. We're building people power. Also, we need to make sure we have political power. That's why it's so important that we get out to vote, to make sure we protect the gains that we made, and force our legislators, demand of our legislators to pass legislation and laws that benefit us as a community, as a resident of this Commonwealth. And so I urge everybody, please register to vote. Us and formerly incarcerated and directly impacted individuals in the Commonwealth, we must come together, mobilize, and push our agenda that will help all of our citizens, all of our families. Thank you so much for allowing me to share my story. Please get out. We need to protect our right to vote. During this Black Lives Matter movement, it is one of the most important components of this entire movement, our right to vote. Thank you.
Our next guest is an incredible singer, songwriter, and motivational speaker who you may recognize from American Idol or from the DC-based band Millennium. Please welcome Travis Tucker.
Hey, my name is Travis Tucker. I'm a local singer, songwriter, born, raised, and lived practically my entire life in Northern Virginia. And I'm here to perform a song for you today that I wrote called Do Work. And Do Work, the message is essentially do the steps today to take control of your life, to make your own destiny, to make your own future. And I'm going to use this looper pedal here. And if you haven't seen a looper pedal before, the idea is the only thing that you're going to hear is the sound of my voice. It's going to go through this microphone. It's going to go into the looper pedal. It's going to get replicated, duplicated. It's going to get layered, and it's going to harmonize and all this kind of stuff. But everything you hear is just my voice. There's no backing track. There's no sound effects, nothing. So I really hope you enjoy it. And the reason I thought it was so important to do this performance is because we got a real big election coming up and we need all hands on deck. Whether you're Democrat, Republican, up the middle, independent, whatever, it doesn't matter. You need to get registered to vote and then go out and vote to make your voice heard. So get out there and vote. I'm going to sing a song just to remind you and hopefully encourage you, and you can bop to it as you roll to the polls. So we're going to do it like this. It's called Do Work, an original by yours truly. Here we go.
Jacob's got them real big dreams, but has he done a thing to make them seen? He just goes strolling along, and he expects to step into a pot of gold, yeah. He says he really wants it, but do you really want it? Prayers are only answers lest you get up and get out and do it. You got to do it. You got to, you got to do it. Get up, get at it, do something about it. Don't bother complaining if you ain't making changes. Tanya says she's gonna go far, make that money, be somebody, get a house and car. But ask her what is her plan, and she'll say, what was that again? You say you really want it, but do you really want it? You cannot control your fate lest you stop hesitating. Do You got to do it. You got to do it. Come on, you got to do it. Don't bother complaining if you ain't making changes. Control your future, be a part of the solution. You control your future, be a part of the solution. You control your future, be a part of the solution. You control your future, be a part of the solution. Do it.
Thank you all so much for joining us. Kerry Washington, Delegate Price, Naomi Isaac. And I want to take a moment to remember the two civil rights leaders, the giants that we have lost earlier this month, C.T. Vivian and John Lewis. They did more for us than any of us could imagine to ensure that we could exercise the very right that we're here to discuss today, the right to vote. Reverend Vivian stood face to face with some of the most vicious, powerful opponents of the civil rights movement to demand they recognize the God-given rights of Black Americans in the Deep South. And Congressman John Lewis himself reminded us, I was beaten, left bloody and unconscious so that every American has the right to vote. Friends of mine gave their lives, do your part and vote. Let's start with you, Kerry. Love you.
Thank you for doing it today. Thank you for speaking out and working on behalf of your home state. It's so meaningful.
You've been collaborating with advocates in Virginia for over a year now. Can you talk a little more about that and what led you to engage with leaders in this state?
So sort of broadly speaking, I grew up in a family where civic engagement and voting was really important. I had the kind of parents who took me out to dinner when I was 18 to celebrate the fact that I would be voting in my first election. Then told me I never have to tell anybody who I'm voting for, but then demanded that I tell them who I was voting for. So, they're super engaged people. And I've worked as a surrogate in all kinds of different states and on behalf of different candidates and different organizations on the ground who are really doing the work. One of those organizations that I've been really privileged to work with is New Virginia Majority. I've been working with them really to help ensure equal access to the right to vote. I really do feel like there are so many important issues that we are facing in our country, in our cities, but the one right that if we defend this right, we get to have a voice about all the other rights is the right to vote.
That's an amazing point. And while we're segueing, Delegate Price, as Kerry said, you've been directly involved in this voting rights transformation. You're literally in the room where it happened. So writing laws and voting on them. So between major reforms and ongoing pandemic, elections this year are going to look different from years past. What are the significant changes that Virginia voters should know for November?
Yeah, I first would like to say we had to work so hard when the Kerry Washington came to Hampton. We had to work so hard because there were so many obstacles in place for voting to begin with. And so getting people to turn out, we had to realize that there were obstacles in place for them to exercise their right. So the tides did turn. And this year, a ton of really important bills were passed that make it easier and even safer for those that are eligible to vote in Virginia. And so I'm not sure if y'all knew, but Jay, you might know, being from Virginia, you had to have an excuse in order to vote on a day different than Election Day. And so in order to vote early or absentee, you had to have an excuse. Well, on July 1st, House Bill 1 went into effect, and that's no longer the case. People can vote early in person, or they can get their absentee ballot in the mail without having to have an excuse. And this is really important because right now we all have an excuse. It's called a global pandemic, right? Like you said, right. COVID-19 is the excuse. And so people that want to stay home and want to stay safe and not show up to the polling place, they now don't have to worry about checking off an excuse. They can get that absentee ballot or go early. And we also increased the time period that we have in order to do that. We increased early voting in a sense for 45 days. So people can choose any time in between between there to go vote, minimizing the chance that they'll be stuck in lines or crowds like we saw again in the middle of a pandemic in other states. And it's completely unsafe. You can't socially distance without standing in a line for 3 hours and still being unsafe, right? And people, shout out to the people that stayed in those lines, but they should have never had to, right? Well, in Virginia, we're working to make sure that that doesn't happen with those increased times. These changes may sound small, but in a normal election year, the inconveniences actually suppress the vote. And then, of course, in a pandemic, they're just downright outrageous and dangerous. Further, we've repealed the photo ID requirement by expanding the types of eligible IDs that people can bring in order to vote. And so this was an additional obstacle that was placed, by a Republican governor just a few years ago. But like most systemic obstacles, this law was disproportionately affecting marginalized people who may not be able to present an official photo ID for a host of reasons. Well, that obstacle is no longer there. We also passed and have implemented a version of automatic voter registration for any Virginian accessing the DMV. So if you're going to go get your first driver's license, the only thing that you have to worry about is looking cute for your picture. You do not have to worry about registering to vote because it will be done for you. If you're replacing an ID card, you're registered to vote. If you're changing your address, you'll get your updated ID and be a registered voter. So that is a pretty exciting development. And for the first time, Virginia will have Election Day as a state holiday. And that gives a ton of Virginians, right? We got rid of Lee Jackson Day that we still had, and now we'll have Election Day. And so that gives a lot of Virginians the time and flexibility they need. They don't have to worry about getting, the kids off to wherever if we should open back up by November. But it gives them the time, should they choose to go in person to the polls. Guess what? That's not even all of it. And that's a lot. But the tireless efforts of activists and legislators over the last few years have resulted in change. And it's just reiterating that elections matter, advocacy matters, fighting for voting rights and against suppression matters. And Virginia voters will have more freedom and flexibility to vote in probably the most important election that's coming up in our lifetime. And so I think that's pretty special.
That's what's really cool. It's just that, it's a ubiquitous energy of everybody wanting to pitch in, do their part and make change. And this is the most important election. We have been in an incubator for the past 3 years and change, and nobody has been there to get us out. So let's talk a little bit about this political movement we're in. Naomi, you've been out on the streets protesting practically every day for the last 2 months. So what are the connections between voting and the systematic change that activists want to see?
I really wish that everyone could really see the transformation taking place in so-called Richmond right now, as we like to call it, the fallen capital of the Confederacy. Demonstrators have been out here on the streets every day, going on 60 days. We've been tear gassed, we've been pepper sprayed, we've been hit with rubber bullets, we've gotten it all, flashbangs. And so, it's interesting, especially in this moment where we see that civil rights activist John Lewis has passed, and we see his legacy really being weaponized, people referencing things that he said, but they neglect to reference one of the most important things that John Lewis ever said, which is, quote, "Do not get lost in a sea of despair, be hopeful, be optimistic. Our struggle is not the struggle of a day, a week, a month, or a year. It's the struggle of a lifetime." He said, "Never, ever, ever be afraid to make noise and get in trouble, necessary trouble," end quote. And so that is the legacy of the civil rights movement we are carrying here in so-called Richmond. We're not afraid to really adopt that challenge and call out and challenge the institutions that continue to wage violence on our communities, because we know that it is the necessary trouble. And so when Virginia Student Power Network recently claimed public space in front of City Hall as Reclamation Square, and we organized a teach-in, again, we were tear gassed. We were arrested for, quote unquote, inciting a riot, literally just as we were settling in for a movie and political education. Over the past few months, we've been assaulted by all kinds of special police, the Virginia State Police, the VCU PD, the Richmond Police Department, the Chesterfield Police Department, the Henrico Police Department, the Sheriff's Department. We've been just antagonized. And we know that before all this is over, things will only continue to accelerate. The maimings, the beatings, the arrests. But we take these risks because we have no other options. You know, our communities, our future descendants, they can't afford for us to lose this struggle. We really need mass resistance to all of these unjust systems. This moment requires more than reform. We need revolutionary change. We really need more than electoral advocates at this point. We need electoral accomplices. And we know that liberation is going to require a diversity of tactics. And we've come to terms with the reality that maybe voting's not going to get us all of the way, but it is going to give us the necessary momentum to carry out this vision that we see for the future. And so we can't compromise on that. We have to be strong, and we have to really take this fight to the street, to the ballot.
For sure. And the youth has always been a catalyst for change throughout history. You know what I mean? And youth doesn't necessarily mean your age. It could just mean your mindset. As long as you're a person that can always say, you know what, I can learn something, that means you still have a mind that's ready to absorb, like a child's mind. So it's about people, like you're saying, it's about the youth, the minds that are impressionable, and people getting out there and really starting to incite some change. Kerry, what's your reaction to what you just heard? Like, you've been engaging in other places, not just Virginia. Do you see hope and opportunity in this moment?
Yeah, I mean, I any hope that I feel in this moment comes from testimony like what you just heard from Naomi, right? Like, Naomi, to me, is such an inspiration in this moment. Democracy is not a spectator sport. You cannot be in the passenger seat for democracy to work. And the change has to happen from multiple approaches. So it means that it's not just about going to the polls, and it's not just about protesting. It's about all of these things. It's about us being able to express our full rights of citizenship in this country through multiple frameworks. And the protesting is vital. It's necessary. It's how we enact our power. It's how we express our voices in between elections. And it's part of how we keep our elected officials accountable to the promises they made or to face the demands that they are not understanding. So protest is vital. Going to the polls is vital. To hear from Naomi, to hear the clarity and the commitment and the resilience is so inspiring. And it's how change will happen in this country. Is each of us, each of us needs to ask of ourselves, like, what am I willing to contribute? And it's not going to be the same for everybody. For some people, your contribution may be financial, and you can give a little more of your check. So give it to Naomi, give it to New Virginia Majority, give it to volunteers who are on the ground doing this work. Some people, what you have to give might be time. So make those phone calls. Volunteer to be a poll worker. Some people, what you may have to do is you can bake. So bake your cookies, take that money and donate it toward efforts toward democracy. Like, no matter who you are, you can contribute to the bettering of our democracy on social media, in person, online, via the phones, with your body, with your time, with your money. There are ways to give. You can give in more than one way, and you can give in the ways that you uniquely can. That's what the movement needs. It needs your vote. It needs your census paper figured out. And then it needs you to figure out, what is your number 3? What is the additional way that you can make your voice heard so that we can really live up to this idea of we the people, including all of us?
I've thought about that so many times when I see folks like you, Naomi, when you're out there, you're protesting on the front line. I'm like, oh man, I don't want to. Man, wait, I don't want to get corona. It's dangerous out there, but there, like you said, Kerry, there are definitely other ways for you to protest. Protesting is not necessarily just being in the front lines, even though that is important. That is dire. That is important to the situation. But there are so many other ways that you can protest too. If you feel like you just want to get your voice out there, there's always a way to get your voice out there. Delegate Price, I'm going to throw it to you. With all of the opportunity for more change right in front of us, with inspiring young leaders like Naomi leading by example, what gives you the most hope right now, and what keeps you up at night?
One of the biggest sources of hope for me right now is honestly sitting here just listening to Naomi. Like, I could just listen to her, like, just recount the stories. Like, I'm so inspired. They're not letting anything stop them from fighting what they're believing in, whether it's their parents or older generations, the president, or a pandemic. Their courage and energy are like national treasures. It's actually helping us get the changes. So I might have been saying something for 5 years now, but new ears are listening to me now because of the energy that they've displayed in those streets. And so we've seen it. In recent months, they've made it very clear that change is going to happen. It already is happening because of them, with the protests in overwhelming numbers and groundbreaking legislation that we've managed to pass this year. And just honestly, the newfound actions and courage that some folks have found who were previously part of the obstacles standing in the way of justice. So a lot of people are reading the room because of their energy, and it's been like an about face. And I think about the phrase Black Lives Matter, just 3 words. But 4 years ago, I was given a speech from the House floor. It was my first year. I was giving a shout out to young protesters who had attended a rally in 2016. And I wanted to conclude my speech by saying that very phrase. But honestly, I had to weigh out potential repercussions and the effectiveness of my ability to do my job as the delegate for the district that I serve. So I didn't say it. And now every time I'm on the Twitter or Instagram, there's these hashtags from corporations and, all kinds of folks who are just freely saying Black Lives Matter. And it's just been eye-opening. And so, I'm old enough to be able to look back and say, you know what, things may feel slow, but I can guarantee you that even if the pace is painful, things are changing and change is happening. But let's be very clear, Jay. What keeps me up at night is the amount that we have left to do. Yeah. And just because I'm inspired or I have hope, it doesn't mean that I can rest on that. Like, I've had experience in some of these rooms, and I know how much needs to change in the legislative branch for us to even be able to talk about justice and freedom. Now's not the time to stop. The protesters have got us in a good place, ripe for change. And so now's the point where we have to push further and faster and harder. And so that's what keeps me up, just trying to strategize. How do we capitalize off this moment to get to justice and freedom? And, we are seeing a lot of this be amplified right now because of the public health and economic crises that are killing Black and Brown people literally right now. And so whether it's the pandemic itself or the evictions crisis that's coming from it, all Black lives still don't matter in certain spaces, according to certain people, and that's problematic. And so I want to celebrate our victories, but it comes with this pause because of knowing how much more we have left to do. And it even comes down to like the less sexy of topics too, where you think about redistricting. And, I've said it before, but redistricting is foundational to any other issue that somebody wants to talk about, because it is literally impacting the power of our vote and our voice. So both federal and state district lines will be redrawn around the entire country next year based on the results of this year's census. I want to say that again. Federal and state district lines will be redrawn across the entire nation next year based off who chooses to fill out the census this year.
And they will last for 10 years. And you have them for 10 years. So it takes 10 minutes to fill out your census. It literally changes the way, the form, the shape of your community. And it stays that way for the next 10 years.
Absolutely, Kerry, because a lot of people want to talk about the funding, and funding is huge, but you could literally miss out not just on money, but on democratic representation by not taking that 10 minutes or not even 10 minutes in some cases to fill out the census. And so, it's so important. But one of the biggest problems that I've seen with redistricting, in addition to who has access to the census or not, is when legislators are at the table drawing our own districts instead of the constituents being at the forefront or at the focus of how those districts are drawn. So earlier this year, we passed House Bill 1255, which makes racial, political, and prison gerrymandering illegal in the Commonwealth of Virginia. Yes. Illegal in the Commonwealth of Virginia. And that is huge. And you would say, okay, that's justice, that's freedom, but you have to keep engaged. That's not the end of the story, because then the same year, 45 Republicans and 9 Democrats came together to approve a proposed constitutional amendment that bakes legislators into the process of drawing lines. And so no matter how honorable you are, no matter how much you think that, you know, you're serving your district is the best thing for them, or you might just be doing this for the check. If you are at the table and you can directly benefit from what happens at that table, that's not a table for equality. That's not a table for justice. That's not a table that's centered on a community. So, you know, these legislators get chosen to be on there, and then these judges choose the citizens that are going to be on there as well. But guess who chooses the judges, Jay? The state legislature. So, like, come on, how is this independent? How is this, you know, nonpartisan? What we need is a commission of solely civilians who are not elected officials, who have their own communities at heart, as opposed to self-serving interests. And so this constitutional amendment will be on the ballot in November. And if Virginians don't say no, we could end up with a new form of gerrymandering that's injustice all again. So as this change is happening, we have to stay engaged, because some of these reforms sound good until you read them. And so, as I said on Juneteenth, we won't settle for anything less than actual freedom, not just bills that sound like freedom.
Personally, I think that we need to have like workshops too, to just like educate folks and, you know, keep them in the know. And people who really want change are going to enroll, and they're going to stay knowledgeable. So as we wrap up this discussion, I'd like to give each of our brilliant panelists opportunity to share some closing remarks.
I guess what I would want to remind everybody, or affirm here in this space especially, is that elections really do matter. They have consequences. And when we elect officials who are willing to use their platforms for good, and then we have organizations, community organizations, activists who are holding those officials accountable every step of the way, then real change is possible. Real change happens. That's how it happens. It happens with those kinds of, that kind of engagement. And so I think we have to hold that in our hearts when we send in our mail-in ballots or when we go to the polls. We have to know that we are participating in a moment that matters.
Yes, I just want to thank you all for this opportunity to talk about democracy and what we need to do in order to obtain it for everyone. Especially in this moment, I give honor and thanks to the civil rights giants that went before us as we continue their legacy, because we have not obtained those full civil rights just yet. And so as we continue to struggle for equality and equity and justice and peace, I just am encouraging everyone to play their full part, because it's going to take all of us to really get that. I am really proud of the work that we've done. You know, I just want us to focus on the big, bold, and systemic change that we need. And we can't accept that low-hanging fruit. We want that land that them trees are planted on, right? We need the actual full rights, nothing short of it. So in November, we have a chance to use those rights to elect representatives who care, who have been showing up to fight for the things that we believe in Virginia, across the country, and to make it a more equitable and just place. And so we need to choose people who are not just screaming Black Lives Matter since May 2020, but when you look at their social media and you scroll back, what are you seeing, you know, prior to May 2020? We need people who really believe it and are working to make sure that Black lives matter in all spaces. And even if we win the battle in November, which I really, really need us to win the battle in November, but the war for freedom is not about any one candidate or any one election year. It will continue. And I look forward to seeing you all on the front lines before and after November, with our masks on, of course. But I'm just so proud of people like Naomi and people like Kerry, who are using their power in their lane to make such important changes that we really need across Virginia.
Yeah, thank you all for having me on here to discuss this with you all. My closing words would just be to be bold in this moment. There are so many ways to show up. Right now, we are having folks who are socially by coming out in their cars, by showing up to online rallies, by showing up to phone zaps, by doing online petitions. There are so many ways to be involved if you are not able to get out in the streets. There's so many ways to continue to advocate for Black lives and justice for Black lives. And then also I want to demand people be bold in their voting decisions. You know, we have all the power right now, and so many civil rights activists have come up to us as youth in these streets and said that, you know, the things that you all are doing and the way that you're raising your voice and making that necessary trouble is resulting in the changes that we've been fighting for decades. So we can continue to be bold. We don't have to, you know, be wrapped up with folks who are advocating for clean energy in the streets, but are entangled with fossil fuel giants in the streets. We can demand more. We have so much power right now. We have so much strength, collective energy, collective support, that this is the time for us to really be serious about what kind of policy we want to see in November and get behind it and tell these politicians that they can move with us or they can get lost. We have to own and be confident in the vision of the future that we want to see, and really demand and hold people accountable to making sure that they create policy that upholds that vision.
Thank you, Kerry. Thank you, Delegate Price. And thank you, Naomi, for your insightful responses and for your hard work out there. We see what you're doing. So proud of it. This is an important election. In November, make your voice heard. Get out there and go vote. I'll see you at the polls.
We all know someone that is the one vote. Maybe that's someone who isn't registered, has been disenfranchised, left out of a process that must include us all, or hasn't quite latched onto the critical nature of the upcoming election. There is someone in your community that needs you to reach out to them in ways that they haven't been reached before. And what better time than now? Many of the traditional ways that people can help can be intimidating. Knocking on doors and making phone calls isn't for everyone. And guess what? That's okay. I encourage you to think about how you can take your own strengths and use them to make change. This mission is critical, and we're going to need everyone to use their talents to be committed in creating that change. I want to make sure you hear me when I say we need your help in every way that each of you is able to give it. Every action you take to help register your neighbor, colleague, or friendly face on your daily walk will help. Every person, every vote you reach adds up. Whether that is by writing postcards and making that experience accessible to your network, or setting up a pop-up voter registration table in your hallway, yard, or little library, or just actively making yourself available to let your own friends and family know that you're here to help them, and to hopefully help them help others. You can meet people where they are, right from where you are, and together we can turn one vote into victory.
Virginia is showing a new direction for this country, one that moves us toward a more inclusive, reflective, and just democracy, where we can change the laws to make sure that our families are strong, that our democracy works for us, and that our communities thrive.
Democracy means fairness for all of us, not just for one person or just a few people. When you vote for fairness for me and my family too.
When I turn 18, I'm going to vote to ensure that everyone has what they need to thrive. Equity is important to me, and so is making sure that other families are healthy and strong.
But we only get there if we continue to show up and make our voices and our votes count. This is no time to let up. This moment and the last few months and weeks has to mean real progress.
Join us by going to www.registerva.com to register to vote or update your registration.
Share this with your people. Make sure your family and friends have the information they need to register to vote. Update their information, volunteer.
Take the pledge to vote. Make sure your community has the information they need to make their votes count.
We need everyone to help to make sure we transform our world.
Virginians, we need you now more than ever to get involved in your community and help progress this country forward and not backwards. To do that, please visit newvirginiamajority.org, where you can get involved, register to vote, and easily find your polling place. It takes so little time to register to vote, you'll be done in a flash. See what I did there? Anyway, we can't do this without you, so please register and make a voting plan today. That's it for us. Thanks for watching.
Effects and black. Check, check. Here we go. Yo. I'm inspired by the strength of the people. From the streets to the steeple, we all equal inspiración. Lo que me inspira es el poder de la gente, lo que usa su mente para revolución. Hey, I'm inspired by the strength of the people. From the streets to the steeple, we all equal inspiración. Lo que me inspira es el poder de la gente, lo que usa su mente para revolución. Hey yo, my heroes were young lords, adored and ready for war. In a society with racial anxiety, singing the blues of various hues and colors. On the streets, people were killing each other, so they formed a coalition of brothers and sisters on a revolutionary mission. Now listen, they weren't messing with no crooked ass politicians. They made their own decisions based solely on their proposition. They had a 13-point program and platform. They knew that organizing was an art form that they could transform from college students in dorms into a militant organization with uniforms. Their newspapers read Liberación o Muerte, liberty or death to their last breath, fighting for those that have less. Although we mad stressed, we still blessed. Stay blessed. I'm inspired by the strength of the people. From the streets to the steeple, we all equal inspiración. Lo que me inspira es el poder de la gente, lo que usa su mente para revolución. Hey, I'm inspired by the strength of the people. From the streets to the steeple, we all equal inspiración. Lo que me inspira es el poder de la gente, lo que usa su mente para revolución. Hey yo, estaba en un lado con las luces apagadas. Desde el hermano, así sus palabras están enterradas. Ves que la sangre de los incas, aztecas y mayas lo lleva much higher. Como Malcolm y Che Guevara categorized together equals liberty over the weather before the start of forever. Somos soldados, lo llaman lo malo, pero solo queremos que los niños crezcan y entiendan su lesson, no second guessing. Ahora es el tiempo, yo no te miento, cuando confrontamos problemas muy graves los convertimos a animales, oye amigos. Ustedes no quieren problemas conmigo, uno solo hace lo que le da la gana. Quien gana cuando en parte de gana no tiene nada, repítalo. Uno solo hace lo que le da la gana. Quien gana cuando la caravana no tiene nada. I'm inspired by the strength of the people. From the streets to the steeple, we all equal inspiración. Lo que me inspira es el poder de la gente, lo que usa su mente para revolución. Hey, I'm inspired by the strength of the people. From the streets to the steeple, we all equal inspiración. Lo que me inspira es el poder de la gente, lo que usa su mente para revolución. Hey yo.